Okay. Greetings and salutations, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome once again to the Storyteller's Corner. I'm your host, Joshua T. Calkins Trubergy, also known on here as many other places as Byron Sidious. Just got off a short bit ago a panel show with some rather amusing individuals, a gentleman by the name of Cortex and Mr. Reactions and Reviews, as well as Rich Newbuck, Rusty Truck, and oh Lord help me, Micro Trucker WG. Want to thank you folks for having me on the panel and allowing me the opportunity to chime in here and there and provide some mild entertainment and some light voice work as well. But now back to what I typically do, which is focusing on all things bookish and more nerd geek kind of things. Spent the last couple of days looking into some of the postings and reportings from Nielsen, the Nielsen Book Scan report, the most recent of which dropped on the 30th, which was Monday. Just a few notes to really briefly touch upon before getting into the other thing that I wanted to touch upon in this video, which was another brief review. Very brief. So first, from Nielsen Book Scan, Pathfinder resource books, according to Nielsen Book Scan, sales spiked approximately 362% uh, in the United States, the United Kingdom, Germany, Ireland, and Japan since Wizards of the Coast's attempted revocation of the Open Game License 1.0. So the folks at Hasbro Wizards of the Coast should really take a moment to consider that their attempt to claw back control over the community of players, gamers, and content creators whom they have garnered around themselves as a community as a whole, their attempt to take ownership of that material has kind of blown up in their faces. But most people have already become aware of that. A lot of content creators, far better versed in these matters than myself, have already spoken on this at length. But this is just a little bit of data to look at and say, you see, there's proof that this really didn't work out well for you folks. It actually helped your competition quite a great deal. Also, according to Nielsen Bookscan, DriveThruRPG.com, which is one of the internet's primary resources for picking up resource books for different tabletop role-playing game systems, has seen a record number of downloads of systems with no Wizards of the Coast affiliation. So anything that was D6 based, D10, D100, or card and coin based, anything to step away from Wizards of the Coast and their attempted fuckery with the open game license, has seen itself boosted quite a bit. Also of note, West End Games, which popularized a D6 role-playing system back in the late 80s and 90s, including the original Star Wars tabletop role-playing game. Their prior intellectual property is potentially being put forth for auction or purchase and revival by a smaller outfit uh, that has got a lot of kind of fingers in the pie of D6 gaming systems. This has not been confirmed. This is just rumor. But one of the companies that is potentially looking into picking up the West End Games properties would be Gallant Knight Games, the creators of Tiny Dungeon 1 and 2, Tiny Frontiers, Tiny Terrors, and other associated small rules like D6 system games. White Wolf Publishing has hired on is looking to hire on a former contributing writer to Wizards of the Coast who asked to break contract over the original game license scandal. Nothing has been agreed to as yet, and names have been unfortunately not offered up in the reporting. It's just stated that White Wolf is trying to court somebody who used to be a large contributor to Wizards of the Coast material. In other bookish news, Books a Million is currently looking like they're going to back out of negotiations to sell its site and services to Amazon.com. Current owners of the site are looking at, they point out that they have some potential concerns regarding online bookselling monopoly being formed if they were to sell the service to Amazon or if that sale were to go through. Another bookish publishing news. Due to continued embargo on pulp paper from Canada, this embargo put in place back in 2018, many mid-sized publishers are relying heavily on digital publishing. Your small and mid-sized presses are leaning into the digital realm of publishing, not so much actual physical publication and distribution. The embargo was first enacted because pulp mills in the United States were arguing that there was an unfair practice of these Canadian paper pulp producers utilizing undercutting their sale prices to gain an imbalanced competitive advantage over US based pulpers. That's all I've got for that for now. Moving into more bookish more bookish things, into a brief review. Um, I did spend a little bit of time over the last week and a half, 2 weeks, digging into one of the books that my buddy Jason gave me a little over a year and a half ago, and this one is Isaac Asimov's Gold, which is a collection of short stories by Asimov as well as essays and musings that he put together to be produced into this single volume. This was a fellow who was one of the pioneers of science fiction. And Gold talks a lot. Asimov himself speaks of his great love of and appreciation for the the abstract and the potential of what could start off as science fiction and eventually become science fact. Um, just an excellent collection, and this will be pretty brief, folks. Uh, half short story collection and half essays. Asimov's Gold is an excellent title for the sci-fi fantasy collector to have on hand. The short stories included vary in size and thematics, though all are superbly done. Each carries a unique point to make it memorable. The story Hallucinations was easily my favorite for entertainment and thoughtful appreciation in this collection, though Cal, the very first story in the collection, stands out as a rather mind-blowing demonstration of how vital narrative voice is in the conveyance of any particular given narrative. It's also a great study in the idea that while Asimov is often touted as having set up the laws of robotics, the three laws of robotics, Cal serves as a really critical look at there might be a way for a robot to eventually undercut those laws of robotics if they are tampered with in very particular ways. Overall, if you can track down a copy of this volume, Jason got his from Half Price Books. If there's a Half Price Books in your neighborhood or anywhere nearby, I'd recommend seeing if they have or can get a hold of a copy of this on your behalf. I would definitely say grab a physical copy of it for your collection, period. Obviously, don't break the bank for it, but if one were to be forced to have to fork over, I would genuinely say upwards of $30, $20 to $30 to have this tome in your collection. Very much worth that drop, that investment. Anyhow, that's all for now, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. I ask that you take care of yourselves, and as always, keep reading.